Okay, so in game 3 of day 2 of the Rugby World Cup, Australia were playing Georgia at the Stade de France. Again, over 30 degrees Celsius at kick-off time, about 32, 33 degrees in Paris. It's finished 35 points to 15 in favour of Australia. They were leading 21-3 at half-time, so yet again the team going into half-time behind goes on to lose, and the team that loses, Georgia in this case, had a sin binning. So if you have a sin bin, you're going to lose, and if you're losing at half-time, no team has chased down the team ahead at half time. So that's an interesting stat. However, for the first time, the team that scores first goes on to win. The other 3 games, the team that scored first, be it from a penalty kick or a try, has gone on to lose. So that is interesting. Jordan Patea scores the opening try within 2 minutes, and you're thinking, okay, this Australian side has, got that siege mentality. They've responded well to criticism. They're under pressure, but hey, they're at the World Cup. They've responded. They're a young team. There's some interesting selections, but they're going out to go, look, we're here to clearly forget the warm-up games. We've learnt our combinations. We're going for it. But the conversion's missed. It's only a try. But Patea had a good game. He had a good game. Luka Matkova slots the penalty for Georgia in response. So after just 5 minutes, so again, Australia take the lead, but a sloppy. The Nakwata Tukwaze try, that was on 9 minutes. He's had a very good game with ball in hand and defensively. It's very hard to pronounce his name, but he's an up-and-coming younger winger. Big reps on him. He's well thought of in Super Rugby. He's got a good try-to-game ratio in Super Rugby. I think he's going to be crucial for Australia going forward in this World Cup. Get him the ball as much as possible. If you even have to play him in the centres off set plays, for example, or at fullback so he can inject himself into the line, you need to get this guy the ball. He's a destructive ball runner, and he's good in the air, and he's good in defence as well. He's an all-round player. Very good try. Donaldson slots the conversion, and then Donaldson has 3 consecutive penalties just to keep the scoreboard ticking over on 14 minutes, 21 minutes and 31 minutes. But if it's not for his boot, Australia don't run away with this. And to be fair, this is where the scoreline flatters Australia. They were solid but not outstanding after the first 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes, they are the better side, quite clearly. Georgia just looked like a deer in headlights. They didn't get going until the second half. But in the second half, I felt Georgia, better side. More adventurous, more willing to try their hand, played with, I think, better energy. When they've got the ball, they're being a bit more aggressive with it. I think Australia, they go in at half-time comfortable on the scoreline, but not actually comfortable. But the one worrying sign is Tate McDermott's concussion on 34 minutes. I'm surprised the referee didn't blow up sooner. A couple more phases of play, a few more rucks take place. He's lying in a very precarious position, and he did not look good on the floor. He unfortunately gets his head in the wrong position in the tackle. He cops a hip or a knee. He was out before he hits the ground. It was a worrying look when he's clearly all over the place on the floor. He's not really conscious. He's very groggy. It took him a while to regain his feet, and even then he looked pretty much. There was no need for an HIA. He's not coming back. I think he misses the next game or two, which is a concern. Not going to lie. He was very influential on the field. And I think they lost a little bit of that influence and his influence in the halves combination. I use the halves from scrum half, linking with Gordon at fly half a little bit, and I think that's where Australia lose their way in the second half. Personal viewpoint on that. The Mabadze yellow card, repeat infringements. They had a team warning. That's right on the stroke of half time. However, and I will say this, it's 21-3 at half time. Georgia, with 14 players on the field and 21-3 down, score the only points during the sin binning. Australia just didn't come out with any intensity. They came out thinking, we've got this in the bag. We can just ease off a little bit. They just looked a little bit flat, Georgia. Ivan Yashvili had a flanker out on the wing because the wing is off in the sin bin. So they put the flanker out on the wing off the set play. They shouldn't be creating an overlap with a man down. That's ridiculous. And that's where I think Australia got lucky. A, that Georgia didn't really show up in the first half. And B, that's sloppy from Australia. You've got a man advantage. You are clearly the better prepared team. You would think in theory because you get more funding. You know, you've had longer together. You've obviously played the Rugby Championship. You've had more game time. That for me was embarrassing to concede a try when you're a man up. That was just flat. They were flat. Now Donaldson's first try comes from the intercept, and Tupou the prop is in the right place, but the Georgian fullback's called the mark. He takes it quick. The Australians clearly haven't retreated. I mean, they could have been done for being offside, and mark could have turned to a penalty. He's allowed to run a fair distance. There's a lot of support players. Australia aren't, marking up the support players. If he gets that offload off quicker and earlier, Australia are in trouble. They completely lost focus defensively. Sloppy kick tennis, but lucky intercept. And I think that's the point where Australia win the game. Donaldson's first try off the Tupou intercept, and that's a prop. A prop gets Australia out of some serious bother there, because if that flick pass comes off, they're all at sea defensively. They're all at sea defensively, and I think they were meandering. They'd lost focus. They'd lost that intensity. And yes, you can say the heat's had an impact, but come on, these are teams that have had time to prepare together in camp. A lot of these international teams have actually been based in Europe deliberately. So the travel to France is less. It's been very hot, even here in the UK, where it's been a bit of a washout this summer. It's still been above average temperatures. They've had a lot of time to prepare. Yes, the conditions have had an impact, but that was really poor defending, even though they get the try. They get lucky with that intercept. His second try, however, this is where they've now started to turn the screw a little bit, but they're not really blowing Georgia out the water. Both sides are being sloppy. They've lost their intensity of Australia. Georgia are hanging in there. They're hanging in there. And he gets his second try and the bonus point try in 68 minutes. And I think that flatters Australia. It does. But they can't put a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. They're not ruthless enough. They do just enough. It's just, that'll do mentality. And I think that's where Australia, they've had a poor rugby championship. They haven't won a game this calendar year. They've had a poor rugby championship. They've lost to their big rivals. They've lost all their warm-up games. And Eddie Jones is the saviour every time he appeared on the big screen. You take the local French neutral fans out of it. The Aussie fans who travelled were giving him a fair bit of abuse. There's quite a few other fans from other countries giving Eddie Jones is the pantomime villain. A lot of the players were disappointed when Rennie was sacked as coach. The win percentage was Eddie Jones. This is his first win. So make of that what you will. They've had a really poor run of form. This is their biggest win since the last World Cup. That's how poor Australia have been in the last 4-year cycle. And yes, there's been some player turnover. And then Kyrgyzashvili, I mean, look, the Aussie discipline was poor. I'm surprised they didn't get a sin bin for repeat infringements as well, because their penalty count starts to go up. And Matkover obviously just drop kicks the conversion, and Georgia want to reset and go again for a third try. So yes, they get the bonus point try win, 35-15, but I think the scoreline flatters them. They were poor in the second half. They did not take advantage of the man advantage when Mabadze's in the sin bin. And apart from the first 10 minutes and the two Ben Donaldson tries, they weren't really at the races either. You can see that this is an Aussie side under poor form, lack of confidence, and that will do mentality. Oh, we've won. We've won. Look at Ireland, look at Italy, look at France in the second half against the All Blacks. The other three games, the winning side have been ruthless. They haven't just gone, okay, we put it in the bag, now we'll put the golf club back in the bag, put the cue in the rack. No. Italy and Ireland today, in the earlier games, in far hotter conditions, were ruthless. They ground down their opposition in the first half. Second half, they explode. They take advantage of the sin bins that the opposition gave them, where they go, right, team are a man down, let's go for it. Let's hit them. Let's tire them out. So later on in the game, we can start opening up and expressing ourselves and entertaining. Australia were not ruthless. They didn't take advantage of the man down, and I think they may struggle to get out of this pool. They've got Fiji, and Fiji are fresh off beating a struggling England side and are really up for this tournament. They've prepared well. They've had a really good build-up period. Australia, cool. They got lucky today against the Georgia side. If Georgia turn up in the first half, like they did in the second half, I think Australia might have lost this game. I think the scoreline flatters them and they weren't convincing. Georgia, tale of two halves for them. I think they can take a lot out of that second half. They really can. They defended like lions, I have to admit. They didn't have as much ball as Australia. They were putting the big hits in. The Australian line-out was a shambles. They disrupted that well. Scrum, I think Georgia will be a bit disappointed with their scrum today. They could have targeted that Australian weakness. They didn't. But I think Georgia can take more out of this defeat than Australia can out of victory. Anyway, that's my view on things. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, up now, we have the game of the day: England versus Argentina. I think this will be a tasty encounter. Argentina go into this as favourites. So let's see what happens here. Let's see if England can actually have a response to a really shocking series of warm-up games in the last month, leading in a shocking Six Nations. Borthwick's coach under pressure, a lot of questionable selections and key players missing. Argentina will be licking their lips at a vulnerable England side. Much like Australia underperformed today, I think England are in serious trouble if they get off to a slow start. Argentina could pummel them. Absolutely, I mean that. Absolutely pummel them. So we'll see what happens in the next game. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will have some more content for you very, very soon.